pregame.com.
Back at pregame.tv, I am Steve Fezzik. I'm here with Bryan Leonard and with Vegas Runner joining us. We're going to talk a little bit of college basketball. And Bryan, you're going to break down the Texas-Kansas State game for us. And how do we pick this game? This shouldn't be a high-profile game.
It was on the list, so somebody had to choose it. And I much prefer the Kansas State in this situation. Texas 0-5 straight up on the road, losing by 11.4 points per game. But interesting, they're 3-1 against the spread. They've actually gone under the number and come in pretty well. But one thing was really that I found really strange, either strange or pretty telling here, was you take a look at Texas on the road. They're allowing 25 more points per game than they do at home. They don't have any confidence on the road. And here they're playing a Kansas State team who plays very good defense at home, allowing 53.6 points per game. Kansas State 10-1 straight up at home. And the only loss they had was to Kansas, a team they never seemed to beat. But now they're coming off a game. They played Iowa State. They had 9 free throw attempts in that game. Now you got a team, they're back at home, they're off back-to-back losses, they're going to put forth a good effort, and they're playing a team who just does not play any defense on the road.
Yeah, let me ask you, VR, different conferences, and I think this changes every year, but I think like in the Mountain West, the Big 12, that home field seems to count for so much, and then you look at like the Big East, doesn't seem to matter at all. Do you think that's something that is a year-to-year type of thing, or can you explain that people not care about it?
No, I think there is consistency to it because, like you said, in the Big East, year in and year out, it's like that. And, there's other conferences, and you've done some work on that with the conferences as far as what home court advantage is actually worth. You've done some great work with that. I think there's consistency there, and I think as a handicapper that helps you because Duke's home court what it's worth. I don't think that's ever going to change. And then you look at a team in the Big East, a Syracuse, a Pitt, or what have you, and I think that's consistent as well, where their home court isn't as high as it should be. But the betting market, I think, more or less gives teams pretty much the same thing. In college basketball, most guys that I speak to believe that home court's worth 4 or 5 points, and they don't really adjust based on that. But you did a lot of work on that reflects that's just not the case. Every team shouldn't be 4 or 5, and it's just like the NFL. The perception is every team is home field's worth 3 points when nothing could be further from the truth.
Sure, look at New Orleans when they're doing badly, how that home field went down. As soon as
and when they're doing great, that home field is worth a lot more than 3.
Well, a lot of it has a lot to do with how many people are in attendance. The teams in the programs that sell out a lot of games, obviously you're going to have a better home field advantage. But it's also a lot has to do with travel. A lot of teams are close proximity. They take the bus, and others just seem to be, altitude. You take a look at Denver. Denver's the only team in that conference that has any altitude, so they have a huge advantage there.
And you see that in the NBA too.
You do, and in fact, when you had Utah. That was in the Mountain West, and they left to the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12. And I said it at the time. I said they're going to have a lot of problems when teams come into Utah. They're going to have a big advantage because teams aren't used to playing in altitude.
Sure.
And when they go on the road, they have a disadvantage because you've got bigger crowds going from the the Mountain West to the Pac-12.
And that Pac-12, that road trip where you got to go Utah, Colorado, Thursday, Saturday. I know it didn't work, I think, last Saturday, but it's something I'm always looking to. If my beach kids from Southern Cal, if they get that win on Thursday, I don't want any part of them when they get to stay in the mountains and go ahead and travel again. But let's go back to the Big 12. Bryan, why don't you make it official with K-State here?
Texas has looked ugly on the road, but they have performed against the spread. But I don't like the situation here for them. From what I've read, they're feeling pretty good. They think they're improving. I don't buy it. Kansas State's had a good record. I believe they won 8 straight games. They lost the last 2. Didn't get to the foul line in the last game. Now they're back at home. Play a much tougher defense than what Texas does. I'll take the home team laying the points.
They're both young teams. I think that's Texas's problem. I think they got 3 sophomores, 2 freshmen. And even though Kansas State's also a young team with 4 sophomores, they have that senior guard. And I think that's so huge, especially early in the season. I know we're into conference play already, but I think having senior leadership at the guard position is just, it doesn't get any bigger than that in college basketball.
That's true. And when you have young teams, they learn to win at home before they learn to win on the road. And so you usually go against a lot of young teams on the road.
No question. Sounds very good. So we broke down college basketball. I'm looking forward to. We're going to go flip on over to the NBA. VR is going to have a best bet here. The Thunder are up against Memphis, and we'll be back at pregame.tv to break that game down.